It's a dark and spooky morning here on the East Coast, and I'm driving off to the mountainside, as I often do during these lengthy hour-long commutes up and down 400 here in the Metro Atlanta area. And overnight, I just heard about the death of Wes Craven. And Wes Craven, obviously, a guy who's forever going to be known for pretty much two things. The first Freddy Krueger movie and Scream. And those movies, they're really good. I mean, as far as genre opposite, they're very, very decent for the era. But there's really so much more to his general oeuvre than just A Nightmare on Elm Street and the first Scream movie. Looking at his general filmography, I don't think it's really as diverse as perhaps even he would have wanted. I mean, look at a guy like John Carpenter. That dude just dabbled in pretty much every genre you can think of. I mean, everything from Assault on Precinct 13 to The Thing to Halloween to They Live. I mean, he really got a lot of range. Whereas I think Wes Craven, pretty much to his own chagrin, he kind of got typecast. He kind of got stuck making, for lack of a better term, pop horror. And you can kind of see that, there was some doldrums, in the 90s. There was certainly a doldrum after Scream. I don't think he really made anything of really as high quality as it could have been after that one. So I think he's a guy where he was just basically sort of put in there by circumstance. Like, you can kind of tell he wanted to do more than horror. Like, he wanted to do other genre movies. He wanted to make, legitimate films, for lack of a better term. That opportunity has never really arose. But you look at his general filmography again. I mean, he's got some really good stuff under his belt. When I think about Wes Craven, I think, you really got to look at his career in sections, because, he started off in the 70s, and he had some really, really great, grindhouse stuff going on there. And then the 80s, he had the post-Freddy success and a lot of really sort of bizarre, sort of mainstream horror attempts that came after that. And then, the 90s, it was really sort of his sort of, I don't know how to describe the 90s in the Wes Craven filmography. It was a mixed bag. It was the best of times and worst of times for him. And then, 2000s, 2010s and beyond, he was just kind of, sitting on the sideline. So when I think about Wes Craven, like, for me, the discussion about Wes Craven pretty much ends and begins The Last House on the Left. I mean, that's one of those movies where I think everybody kind of agrees that it's not necessarily a great movie, but it is incredibly effective. It's extraordinarily important as far as general horror works. I mean, it's one of the most significant, probably one of the top 10 most important ever made, because that was really the first film that kind of decided to break away from the supernatural. That was one of the first true crime horror films. One of those movies that kind of got away from the gothic and the zombies and the vampires and all the Vincent Price, H.P. Lovecraft stuff, and actually tried to make a horror film based not on, the supernatural and monsters and demons, but just on the own, vileness of our instinct, basically doing a film about crime and rape and all the other really horrific sides of humanity, which have nothing to do with the occult. And it's a very, very important film. Probably not the best film in the genre, but just for what it started, I think it definitely deserves some accolades. And I mean, to be honest, it's still a pretty aggressive film. I mean, even now when you watch it, it's got some pretty tough spots. It's one of those movies where it takes an incredible, you got a suspension of disbelief for it to work. But then again, the film is based on the Virgin Spring. It's a variation of Ingmar Bergman film, so that shows the kind of guy Wes Craven was. He could take a Bergman film and make a grindhouse rape revenge classic about it. Then after that, he was doing stuff like The Hills Have Eyes. And The Hills Have Eyes, I think Wes Craven would tell you himself, it was basically just a really better than average Texas Chainsaw Massacre ripoff. Clearly that was what it was trying to be. And it had its moments. I think it's kind of an overrated movie, but for what it is, it's pretty good. Michael Merriman, just for the fact that it made him an image we could never shake out of our head, I'll give him some credit for. And then in the 80s, he was doing a lot of really weird stuff, stuff like Chiller and Deadly Friend. Really, really mixed bag. Probably not stuff he himself had that much interest in. Then 1984 rolls around. He gets the idea for Freddy Krueger. he's reading about like all these guys from Southeast Asia who were in like internment camps who come to the U.S. and they're afraid to fall asleep, and they fall asleep and die from like extreme fright. And he came with the idea of doing like a janitor, child molester, demon. I mean, it's really inventive. When you think about the concept of Freddy Krueger, especially at the time when everybody's just doing like Jason variations, I mean, it is a very, very novel and interesting concept. And I think, you know, A Nightmare on Elm Street, as far as being a filmmaker, that's probably the best and worst thing that ever happened to Wes Craven, because obviously it made him a lot of money. It made him a prolific genre director. It made sure he would always have a job in Hollywood. But by that same token, I also think it kind of put him in a hole where nobody would really want him to make films that weren't like the first Nightmare on Elm Street movie. And, you know, you look at Craven's filmography, and really he's only made, I think, like one non-horror film his entire career, and that was that one Meryl Streep movie, which is way more terrifying than Freddy Krueger, in my humble opinion. But, you know, Elm Street, you know, I think it's a good genre film. It's one of those movies where I think I enjoy it just because I feel like I should respect it, you know, for being different and being pretty important as a genre template. But I'm not really, like, a huge fan of the film. I think it's kind of goofy at certain parts. And the thing is, as part of Craven's deal for financing the movie, he ended up losing the rights to it to New Line Cinema. But he was still deeply involved in a lot of the films. And for me, if you ask me what I think the best film Wes Craven ever did was, it's not even a movie he directed. It's a film he produced and kind of served as a co-writer, and that's the third Elm Street movie, The Dream Warriors, which, in my humble opinion, is not only the best Freddy Krueger movie, it's pretty much the only Freddy Krueger movie. I absolutely love that film. You know, if you take a look at all the works that Craven's did, that's the one that I would put in a time capsule and say, this is what the dude was about, this is what he could make, mixing, you know, pop horror, mixing the fantasy, doing the social commentary. I mean, it was just a really, really great film, which just showed everything. It was, you know, all the good stuff he could do, all the gross out gut sequences, and, you know, the way better than average acting, and all of the allusion to the mythology. I mean, it's just an all-around entertaining film. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. It's terrific. From there on, you know, it's a mixed bag. You had some movies he made that I thought were really, really good, like The People Under the Stairs, which is probably like my second or third favorite Wes Craven movie. And then you had stuff like, what do you have? Vampire in Brooklyn. Less said about that, the better. And along the way, he did some films that were, you know, worthwhile, I guess, like Shocker, which, like Wes Craven even said himself, was like his feeble attempt to recreate Freddy Krueger, about a dude who, you know, goes through TVs and kills people. Interesting concept, not the best execution. He did New Nightmare, which is sort of like a proto-Scream because it's all self-reflexive and is breaking the fourth wall. And, I mean, a lot of people consider it to be the best Elm Street movie, but I still think number 3 is the one to go to. And then 1996 rolls around, you got Scream, and that pretty much made horror mainstream again after being the doldrums for a good, you know, decade. And I think, you know, the same thing that happened with Elm Street was what happened with Scream. I mean, yeah, it made Wes Craven a lot of money, and it ensured he's always going to have a directing job, and it really salvaged his career. Especially after Vampire in Brooklyn, what you don't know about that is there was like a huge lawsuit because when the stunt women died, and that cost like the studio like millions of dollars, almost ended his career. It was almost a John Landis moment for Craven. So the success of Scream ultimately did end up saving his career. And just watching that one, I mean, it was good, it was entertaining, it was very inventive. As far as, you know, slash movie, did so many things different. You know, I don't think it's a great movie, but I think it's certainly very, very, very good for its, you know, time frame and its genre and all the things it set out to do. It's a pretty good film. It was a good horror soap opera comedy without being, you know, too blunt on either side. So it's a hard combination to pull off, but Craven, he's got the expertise to do it. But yeah, like I was saying, you know, that put him in that hole where he really couldn't escape. After making Scream, I mean, that's pretty much all he was left with to do, was to make films like Scream. And you saw it in Scream 2 and Scream 3 and all that stuff. And, I don't know, and after Scream, you know, his movies, I think, got progressively worse. I mean, he had stuff like Cursed and Red Eye, which I was just not a huge fan of at all. And even like the last couple of Scream movies I thought were pretty underwhelming. So I mean, it's one of those things where, Craven, he's made some good films, but I think he's one of those guys where as good as his oeuvre is, I don't think he ever really got a chance to make the movie he actually wanted to make. It always seemed like he was being constrained, like the MPAA wouldn't let him, go out and do what he wanted to do, or there were just too many demands from New Line Cinema or whoever he was working for. Just wanted to kind of do something that was like Freddy Krueger or like Scream. So he never really seemed to be able to make that one definitive, idiosyncratic Wes Craven movie, which I think is, pretty much the big tragedy. This guy, he was so talented. I mean, he's one of the smartest dudes to ever make horror films. And the thing is, he made a lot of really, really good movies. Some even borderline on great. But he never made his movie. And I think, looking back on his career, that's the thing that kind of strikes me the most. That, even though he was like 70, you kind of thought in the back of your head that maybe he's going to have like that last hurrah. He's going to be like Kurosawa, or he's going to come back out of absolute obscurity and make that one movie that he's been wanting to make his entire career, and it totally blew us away. And, remind us of the old school genre films while we loved them so much. But, it never happened. Dude lived to be 76, died of brain cancer. I'm not going to say it's a complete tragedy. The dude lived a really long time, made a lot of movies, had a lot of success, made a lot of money. He's had an indelible impact on the genre. And, it's one of those things where he's kind of been out of the limelight for a while. But just looking at his impact, I mean, Freddy Krueger, Ghostface, Last House on the Left, The Hills Have Eyes, even like his really obscure stuff like, Shocker and People Under the Stairs. I mean, that's going to be stuff we're going to be Netflixing and watching and YouTubing for decades and decades to come. So, Wes Craven, you're off to the big projection box in the sky. You made a lot of really, really good movies. And here's hoping that up in the great beyond, you got a camera and you got an unlimited budget, and there are absolutely no executive meddling going on, so you can make whatever you want up there. So, R.I.P, good buddy, R.I.P.